document to stage. So like if I do like this.
Mm-hmm. Junior, I know his catalog be full, boy.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, Noble.
I ain't realize I was off the screen. I was off the screen. Oh, my bad, my bad. Hold on, hold on. All right, all right, all right. That's better. What I was saying was you hear nothing I was saying just now.
No, I hear nothing you were saying, Noble.
All right. So what I said was I found out that you could like the document that you shared, you could upload it to StreamYard
Mm-hmm.
and have it be displayed on the screen like side by side,
Mm-hmm.
like say like hold on, I gotta change the view. All right, there it is. And if I put you as the view and then switch it back, hold on, let me see how you could. Hold on, I cannot change the person that's there. Hold on, remove from stage. I just want to see if I can do this. And then visual. I guess it doesn't matter. We can have it like that. Does it mean that we just do how we've been doing it? Hold on. So if I share the screen like this, can you see on the screen?
What's
You
that,
can,
Noble?
right? The
Yeah.
the
Yep.
document.
Yep.
Oh, you couldn't.
I
Okay,
can
so
see
that's
it. I
cool.
can see
All
the
right, so
book.
that worked.
Yep.
All right, so that worked. Islam. All right. When you get back, we ready.
I'm ready whenever you're ready.
Islam.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seed sowing, harvest reaping, man of neither me. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dream. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram beat.
Peace. Peace,
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 peace.
peace, 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 peace.
Peace, Noble. How you doing?
Peace and love. Doing great by Lord's grace. How you doing today?
Man, it's always good, man, to wake up. Always good to hear your voice.
Oh,
Always good to bring a divine message to the brothers and sisters and the true light seekers, man, as our charity.
indeed,
But Noble, you
indeed.
shared something in the text stream that was so valid, man. And I know
Mm,
you was quoting one of those book. What was that? The Water Science. Which book was
yeah,
that?
and bring it up. John,
Yeah, can you elaborate on that for me real fast? I'm getting something together.
Islam, Islam. Yeah, so we shared earlier in the text stream uh, a vignette from a piece of literature entitled Hidden Messengers in Water, which Shikari shared with us maybe a few years ago or so. And it's very enlightening. And what the research provides in the book is that the scientist did a research mission where he conducted different tests on water freezing it at a certain temperature and unfreezing it, and taking certain water deposits from different places around the world and studying the crystals that were formalized from those waters. But what he did was he just didn't freeze it and unfreeze it. He immersed the water into different parts of like different activities. So he would put it between speakers, right, playing different kinds of music, even writing words on pieces of paper and wrapping it around glasses. Um, and the water interpreted what was even written, which was astonishing. But anyway, what I shared in the text stream, I could read it real quick.
Islam.
It says, a person experiencing great sadness will emit a sadness frequency, and someone who is always joyful and living life fully will emit a corresponding frequency. A person who loves others will send out a frequency of love, but from a person who acts out evil will come a dark and evil frequency. The same principle also applies to objects and locations. For example, there are locations where accidents frequently happen. Yeah, locations where businesses succeed, and locations that create happiness. And you might have heard about a jewel that brings tragedy to successive owners. This applies not only to the physical objects, right, but the various phenomena that go on in the world also emit characteristic frequencies. How so? Watch this. A change in the energy of the atmosphere results in what? A lightning and storms. This intense energy will result in what? Natural disasters. But we need to realize that these are not evil events. If we consider the enormous amount of evil energy being blown away, perhaps we should actually be appreciative of lightning and storms. For another illustration, think about the fact that people around the world enjoy coming together to celebrate. When people gather, wear special clothing, sings and dances, and are infested, the result is that stagnant and evil vibrations are dissipated and joyous vibrations are created. All things vibrate, and they vibrate at their own frequencies. When you understand this, you will significantly broaden your understanding of the universe. With this understanding, your eyes will open to things you have never seen before, things previously pushed to the back of your consciousness. And these discoveries and feelings will give you new life to your soul. The fact that everything is in a state of vibration also means that everything is creating sound. This doesn't mean that we can hear every sound, although there are some people who apparently hear the voices of trees and who can interpret or communicate with plants. With that, I say Islam.
Islam, man.
Islam.
Islam. Man, gratitude. Gratitude for the wisdom, Noble. Gratitude for the
Gratitude
wisdom
for that sharing. Islam.
and that degree of wisdom, you know. And it's always good to be, around wisdom and be able to elaborate on these specific topics and maybe just get a pictorial from things that we just may not have seen or may not have been
Mm,
introduced to for
mm,
whatever reason, or it may not be a reason.
indeed.
But what we like to talk about, because I understand religion, and here at the BBT, when we say we under the triple rose and we have a clear understanding of that, which we always elaborate on, but then we always have to come back to some things that we should be able to talk about, which is our thinking and our reasoning. I think that's a tool, Noble Alonzo, that our youth and just a lot of us have, how can I say, overlooked, you know?
Mm,
And we talk about the subconscious, but when we have reference and things to look at, just like manuscripts, and then applying these tools to be able to see certain things, to be able to touch it, be able to have dialogue with your brothers and sisters on these specific topics that others may have had the pleasure to speak on, and not only use these things to psychoanalyze you, but situations, you know?
Indeed, she.
And so I always talk about, how do we think? What do we base our understanding on? Are we basing our understanding on logic? Are we basing showing the kids this how to think and how to reason? All these tools. But just a little reference, I'm gonna go along. I'm not gonna stay in a specific topic too long, but we can go through this, Noble Alonzo. We can talk about it. But I just want to introduce the super consciousness through meditation. And I got something saved. I'm gonna have to find it in my phone. But a lot of science and things have been hidden when it's this tool that was made or created. What I gotta find the documents where you can look at a plant per se with this contraption and see it in its entirety as a full plant. You see what I'm saying? As a seed,
Islam.
you know, and it's these things are amazing, but then it's also simulating the mind. I mean, these things are amazing when you start looking at things and be like, oh, I see how we digress. You know, you know.
Islam.
It's a little quote I want to use. It says, "You ask, how can we know the infinite? I answer, not by reason. It is the office of reason to distinguish and define. The infinite, therefore, cannot be ranked amongst its objects. You can only apprehend the infinite by a faculty superior to reason, by entering into a state in which you are your finite self no longer, in which the divine essence is communicated to you. This is ecstasy. It is liberation of your mind from the finite consciousness. Like can only apprehend like. So when you thus cease to be finite, you become one with the infinite. The reduction of your soul to its simplest self, its divine essence, and you realize this union, this identity. All the writers, all the sages. This was the letter to Philacus from Plantus. All you hear, all history, what? Man, know thyself. Man, know thyself. If you understand words, that's synonyms. You know, all the ancient mysteries is gonna go right back to what we saying. All the ancient mysteries, you know.
Islam.
So when we talk about understanding and teaching our kids something, I understand all religions and all that, but we gotta teach how to think. We start with the ancient, and then we get to the modern. You know, we can talk about the cosmic, which is above, and then we could talk about which is below, within us. And the two will what? Agree as one. Just like when we talk about the pentagram coming together. Come on, man. Like it's all signs and symbols. Just like in the beginning of the seven seals. You know,
Right.
it's a unity with man and God. It's a unity. The brain. I'm telling you, the thought process. And when we talk about the goal of the major esoteric traditions and of all the world religions per se, is entry into a what? Higher kingdom of nature, into the realm of gods. That's why us as non-Orthodox, we connect ourselves to the Creator. We don't have a problem with no one's Islam, with no one's science or nothing. We understand. And it's a different level of understanding that we have to agree on. No disagreeing. And this kingdom is known as what? They like to call it the fifth kingdom. The awareness and experience of its world constitute, which is referred to the superconscious experience. So that's what we're talking about today. We're going to talk about the superconscious experience. That extra glimpse in your world, that ecstatic term. Like Alonzo said, it's an energy that exudes a person that's full of joy in life. It's going to exude that. It's going to exude that energy. It can't exude nothing else. That's a natural joy. The same way if the pendulum was on a different level, it exude what? Exactly what it produces. And as a state of boundless being and bliss, in which one's individual consciousness merged with the universal consciousness, with the Godhead per se. It's a state of beginness and awareness that far surpasses one's usual limited, narrow view of reality and transports one for a brief moment beyond the limits of time and space into other dimensions. This is when we talk about having that spirit of discernment. When you see things coming, it's almost like that movie. I can't think of what it was called. Something always happened, and they think Final Destination.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right, right.
That in a context.
Mm-hmm.
But the union of the self in man and woman with the self of the universe, that's what they call yoga in that practice. But really, that's a uniting. That's the yoking or the joining together of the finite, that finite self with the infinite self. And the progress or the method of attaining this union is also called what they call it yoga. You see? Yeah. And the name given by the Hindus to the highest state of consciousness is called samadha or samadhya. The Zen Buddhists refer to it as satori. In Taoism, it's known as the absolute, Tai. Thomas Metron calls it transcendental unconscious, while back in the time, the Quakers, they labeled it inner light. Gurdjieff called it objective consciousness. They call him one of the mystics, like Adam Blavatsky. But I can show you they was all, especially Adam Blavatsky, she'll tell you they were studied by Muslims, with all due respect. Then you have the other context. Jung described it as the process of what? Individuation. And in the Western metaphysical traditions, it's the fifth state, the cosmic consciousness, illumination, and the mystical or religious experience. You see, all these things which we tell you about this part of your brain that was, how can I say, buried in a shallow grave. Because it's power. I'm telling you. It applies to the conditions of our mind. And it's the union of individual consciousness with that of a greater being and becoming one with the creator. And when this occurs, there's really no loss of individuality or sense of annihilation, but rather an expansion into a greater beginningness in which we discover that we are finite self no longer. And we become something far glorious than we can ever imagine. I'm telling you, and this is the beauty of it. Even when we talk about the mystery schools, when we talk about biblical scriptures and people get it twisted, and I say, well, what was Moses learned in? Pertaining to the Bible. He was learning in the mystery schools. Okay. Okay, so if he was learning in the mystery schools, Alonzo, and Aaron was his mouthpiece, all he can teach Aaron is what he know, right?
That's it. That's all. No, nothing less.
So you see how we still talking about reason, and we in a context of reason. And it's a little known fact that every ancient religion and philosophical system had an esoteric or a so-called secret teaching for the select few. That's why it was called people of the way. That's why it's an esoteric and an exoteric. That's why it's analogy, parable, and symbology of the biblical scriptures. That's why when you have tools, you can talk about hermeneutics. You can talk about the language of the biblical scriptures. You can have the lexicons, and you can come from understanding. But it's knowledge. They like to say held secret, known only to a few, and it includes so-called secret concealed from mankind by nature, and the knowledge that comes from within. And there was also an exoteric or a public teaching for the masses. That's what the most average people get, the exoteric meaning. And these in ancient teachings, which are known as the mysteries, they dealt with the great truths about nature of reality. Just like when I tell people about all the different books of Moses, like you'll start connecting things and be like, wait a minute, sheep. Like, huh? Yeah. When you read the 6th and the 7th book of Moses, you will start seeing things with your eye and be like, wait a dang go a minute. Because certain things is there and certain things was took out. We talking about program learning. Y'all still with me?
Islam.
And these ancient teachings, they was known to us as mystery schools and different things. You know, the study of the origin of the cosmos. It was called cosmogenesis, and the study of the origin of man, known as anthropogenesis. And also the views different somewhat from the introduced later by modern science and by present day theology. Now, here these two phrases I just gave us to look up modern, when you can start using ancient tools and be like, wait a minute. You said cosmogenesis, Sheik? Yeah. Did you say anthropogenesis? Yes. Yes. It was greater secrets in these certain areas. The priests of those days, the hierophants of Egypt to the Brahmins of India. You hear it in our Moorish Quran, where the prophet, where he was in the Brahmin, he dealt with all that, the Brahmin, the Vedas. So these are certain areas. The so-called Hebrew rabbis kept their inner teachings hidden from the public for fear of the word profane. Remember, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle, they were, what they were supposed to learn was a secret. They was going against the church. The Jewish rabbi called their outer religious ceremonies the Merkava, Merkavah, meaning the exterior body, the vehicle or the covering, which contains the hidden soul, the highest teaching. And today, their esoteric teaching is preserved in the form of what? When everybody be like, what you mean, Sheik? I say, in the Kabbalah. These are teachings. When I say, if I got the tools of the toolbox, we should be teaching our babies this. I'm telling you, it showed them how to be what? Super conscious thinkers, Noble Alonzo.
Indeed.
I'm telling you, this is just the key that our babies missing. Yes, they get the 1, 2, 3s and the ABCs. We get that, but this aspect is missing. It's just like the book, remember, The Conspiracy to Destroy Black Boys and Girls.
Right.
When we say, what do you mean? I said, these concepts, we have to speak about these things and show what the overcomingness, to show something to compare to combat it, to show the richness and the historicalness. In all different languages, when we see this in history, they'll call it something else, known as the Eleusina in Greek, Eleusinia. When a lot of kids be reading that concept, when they be taking history and all these different classes, they see that word, but they won't never research it and go back in history and be like, well, wait a minute, what this concept is all about,
Right.
You read right over it, but it'd be right in our kids' face. And the greater and the lesser teachings of North Buddhism. Even when they talk about the other European writers, where Pythagoras preserved the highest teachings for the players' disciples, only binding them by oath to secrecy and silence. Where do you think the science came from? I keep telling people, stolen legacy, with all due respect. And then if these people that's not from the area didn't come from and get the wisdom from there, then they always quote Egypt. They always quote the occult alphabets, which I try to show my brothers and sisters, and the so-called secret, but the sacred ciphers for the players' disciples to preserve our ancient wisdom. Even when people be on the internet with the tarot cards, those are popular. But it's a lot of Egyptian mysteries to that. And like I said, no matter what tarot cards you have, they are going to tell the same story. If the vessel is right, I always tell people the vessel is right. It can show you everything. Not from how can I say? Not from a pompous perspective, just from an explanation. Just like if you interpreting a dream. That's all. Just like in early Christianity, you find the inner teachings preserved for the initiates. Just like my brothers here, we understand what people be saying in the outer, but then when you speak with someone, if you're doing the origin of history, man, you're just gonna have to be like, well, I rest my case.
Indeed.
But we always talk about this spiritual development, man, and the science acknowledgement of a lot of difficult tasks. And that's just thinking, man. like I said, and I didn't want to stay too deep in the wisdom. Like, 'cause I want to share things with people, but this wisdom is so powerful, and there's so many beautiful chapters in this piece of wisdom. But building the bridgehead, and when you and a lot of these things, or how can I say this different vernacular, when I be speaking of the 12 African spirits, a lot of this stuff I'm just using different words, or I'm just using different tools in the toolbox, but explaining different things. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of people, when I say a lot of spirits were took for different so-called religious backgrounds, or just being able to explain it in that manifestation for brothers. Because when we talk about the esoteric and the exoteric, a lot of things
Mm.
was made exoteric for the common people to try to get it. But remember, it's an esoteric, it's an inner meaning. Just like when I talk about the Gnostic scriptures, when I talk about the Baphomet, the common person that's not a clear thinker, that think and reason, the first thing you would get off belief system is thinking that's something scary. But the Baphomet is written Kabbalistically, Temp Ho Habs Abba. And so when you start thinking of these things and seeing how things was written in signs and symbols, the mind will start thinking in a subconscious perspective, because it's duality in everything. You just have to understand the context where that individual or wherever that science is coming. And this is what
Mm.
we're trying to show our brothers and sisters, how to use this form of the super consciousness, just like the Antakarana or the Antakarnana or Karana. It's a certain phrase, it's a certain spiritual development that we build a bridgehead between your soul and your personality. When a person said, you hear a lot of people say, well, part of yourself has to die. Well, pers- not per se, not per se,
Mm.
not per se. I get the analogy and the parable. I get that. It's just like almost being purified per se, as analogy and a parable. But
Right.
when I come to you in a philosophy, I say, well, cut part of yourself off of you, and let's see how you operate. When I'm coming from the philosophy of what we're talking about, instead of just basing it on how we believe. So in that context, that's not true. What we're saying is the part of you have to die, or a part of you cut yourself off, is doubt.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's lower self. It's the how can I say, the undisciplinedness, saying that you can't do something, not putting your will in things, not doing the best that you can, and being okay with the outcome. All these things, worrying about time. Time is the one debilitator that have us shook up. Time, time, time. So all those things, once we can get over that, and then I believe we're working in a higher self, and it's that bridgehead. That's in the Sanskrit. It's described as the channel along which the energy of the soul flows with ever increasing force into the energy. It's called our chakras, our vortices, or our chakras. All different levels explaining the different things, or our ajna. All these different things that explain the same thing. In average man, only 5% of the soul energies are available to those individuals. But through the practice of meditation, the individual begins to establish a bridgehead to build that, or to build that, in Christian, they say the Jacob's ladder, the Antakarana, or the Jacob's ladder. And seeing a lot of things, when I show, when Noble, if he got a chance, he can show that diagram. It's going to illustrate the bridgehead that's that's constructed between the soul, which is the higher triad, and the personality vehicle, which is the lower triad. Now remember earlier I said when a so-called pentagram come together, you got this coming together and that coming together. But watch this. When the soul is functioning completely with the personality, we have what is known as the what? Soul infused personality. See? Depicted as what? Two interlaced triangles. We call triads. Known as the what? The star of perfection. Or what they like to call it. Come on, y'all. The star of what? David, right?
David.
You
David.
see?
Sheik, what you want? You in that document? What page? Page you on?
Shoot. I'm all over the place. Chapter 2. I'm almost at chapter 2 with the diagram, almost at the bottom. And remember how I said in signs and symbols, and in the beginning of the seven seals, you're going to see those two symbology coming together. creating what? Coming together as one. In that context, what I'm talking about. You with me, Noble Alonzo? You found it? Where you at?
Islam. Islam. Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Let me bring it on stage.
Okay. So as Noble bringing that diagram on, you're going to look at it and you're going to consider the space rocket of man for a moment. And each rocket contains of our culture or science. And in the carefully adjusted radio signals, the bleak from the rocket hovers the ghost of Edison and Marconi. And in the flesh of the departure lie the efforts of Rudolph, of Rutherford, of Dalton, of Oliver Lodge. And in a mathematically calculated course, it takes is the skill of Kepler, the perception of Galileo, the institution of Isaac Newton, as well as the geometry of Euclid and Pythagoras. So when you look at that, it's the tree with the
That's it, G.
yeah, that's chapter 2. That diagram 1. Yeah, right there. Go back with the right there. Right there. Now look, this is what our kids need, man. And I know a lot of people don't know what they're looking at right at this specific moment, at this time right now. But I'm telling you, at this time right now, you have a gift. And I'm telling you, and if your kids going to school, if your kids being taught about anything about science, they need this. I sent Noble another one too, and I'll talk about it more specific and more detail. But when you start looking at these things, and when you start really getting the idea of what you're looking at, what's already here, when I tell you and I show you that we already brilliant from day one, because these things are synonymous. You know,
Islam.
these things are synonymous, and they're sprouting a particular sprout. Just like Alonzo talking about how the water concept, right?
Mm-hmm. Indeed, vibration. Indeed.
And it's our greatest effort to duplicate it and replicate it in the workings of the rockets, the struggle of root races, the rise and fall of dynasties, the shackling and unshackling of religions, the freeing of science. So all the stuff that you see in this spiritual science, it all starts in the root. That's why the science of yoga, the yoking of the lower man with the infinite, which lies in the inner space, and the many teachings of procuring this growth in man, of his flowering into perfection. The same way what you see when I'm going to go in detail more and more about that growth cycle, lie in a process and meditation, in one-pointed concentration, in relaxation and breathing. The projection of ourselves into the inner spaces becomes successfully and achieved by many before us. And it's going into that higher self. It's not, you don't have to leave nothing. You don't have to kill, nothing have to die. This must agree with this. To what? Sprout that. That's a mathematical equation. Come on, man. Like this is for the pictorial, man. The path to self-unfoldment. Just like when we talk about the flower, the Merkaba, all these things, man, the unfoldment of what this beautiful flower can be explained so many ways. But then we explaining it in the superconscious mind. And the reasons why it's not common because our babies haven't got it in a young age. You know?
Indeed, see.
They just haven't got it. They haven't got teachers to teach them about how to think, to teach them about who they are. At their young age, they get 1, 2, 3s and ABCs. But then what's next? You know, we talk about the mineral kingdom, the spiritual development, the glorious jewel, all this stuff, the plant kingdom, the nature, you know, all those things which they can know. All these ways they can reason and to use sound understanding. We missing that subconscious. We missing that conscious understanding. We missing that, okay, when the kids come, Noble Alonzo, and we can have different little write-ups, say how you felt today, different faces, this, how you feel sad, you happy, you had a good day, are you hungry, this, that, and the other. All these different things that need to be connected where I'm telling you, man, we just, with our children at a young age, this type of thinking, this type of understanding. I've seen it. And here it is, I'm in my city of Flint. I'm like, oh man, I gotta do more. I gotta we gotta create something, man, for we can get our babies to see this at a young age. All of this go back to the chakras. Everybody talk about chakras. But look at it. Everything connects to the same thing that we're talking about. You know? The analogy between man and the flowering plant. It can be made with regard to what? Our chakras, or the lotus located in the what? The etheric trait along our spinal column. And then the 7 major centers. But we most familiar with the chakras that lie in the etheric sheet. The astral and the mental sheets also possess a set of 7 chakras each. And the chakras that we are concerned with are the ones lying along the etheric tract in the spinal column. Ordinarily, they are not visible to the physical eye, but in particular sense, they can be seen in our clairvoyance or clairvoyantly when the center is activated. This is what people are saying about a halo and about a certain energy that a person carry. You have to have that correct understanding what constitutes chakras or 4 centers. You know, these are the things that when we say with your eye, with your pineal, with that spiritual eye, when people talk about they can go around and see vampires per se and how they put it in the movies, but we're talking about that clairvoyance to where nothing can harm you. Why? Because you see it. You see it already coming, and you in the midst of that. You are in the midst of that, so it's supposed to be seen. These are your cosmic banks when we're talking about your chakras. You know? These are your cosmic banks. You have to deposit things. Something has to be deposited in them chakras. Think about what I'm saying.
Right.
Something has to be put into this, man, to be able to talk about these things and be able to be protected and be able to navigate and be able to see things. The chakras, which literally means circles of wheels, when you look in the Sanskrit, they're connected to the physical counterparts, the endocrine glands, associated nerve, the plexus, through an extensive system of channels called the nadis, along with the prana, which is our what? Cosmic energy. That's why I tell everybody, man, you don't want your water to freeze up. I'm telling you. It conveys from the centers of the organs to the physical body. That prana, which is responsible for the maintenance of life in the physical body, while the oxygen and the carbon are absorbed directly by the physical body through respiration. The prana is absorbed by the etheric body and channeled through the physical body by means of a system of the nadis. While oxygen cannot be stored in the body, the prana can be stored. This is what our babies need to know. This is the body. When our kids say they don't like biology because it's not being taught the right way, Noble Alonzo.
That's right.
This
You
is
got to see themselves in the story.
yes. I mean, when people say, oh, the kids don't like this because this, because with all due respect, you've been taught wrong. With all due respect, our baby's been taught wrong. And the system that we put them in, with all due respect, we're not taking advantage of being able to own our schools. Like Dick Gregory said, we're supposed to own our charter schools and our churches. That's what we're supposed to own in the community, and that's our community service. Is to teach at the schools and make it successful. That's our obligation. But that's a whole nother wish and dream, you know. But when we talk about these things like the nadis, when we explain these different concepts to our youth and even adults, even you can take this on the job and things where you can take it to reasoning, and I can break it down to in academia when we talk about the Maslow's hierarchy of the theory of understanding and congratulating and all these different things and reasoning and just so much that can trickle down to what? Operating the right way. When you have this power of what? Super consciousness to know how to what? Convey situations, to know how to do what? Deal with the facts of the matter. You know? These major channels of the nadis, which considered primary, the Ida, the Pingala, the Susamna, all these sounds just like different African symbologies, or how can I say in more science, tools in a toolbox, because they are. The central channel, the Sushumna, extend from the Mudara, that chakra at the base of the spine, and the Ajna chakra. Remember, that's in our more that's in Exhumed of the Nation, the Ajna.
Indeed.
I always talk about this. When people talk about things and a prophet didn't talk about this, man, I ain't worried about what you saying. You just don't have a clear understanding of what was being taught. I'm not here to argue with nobody. We deal with tools. We scientists, you know, but the center between your eyebrows, while the Ida and the Pingala are connected to the left and the right nostrils, respectively, and intertwine the Sushumna, the Nadi, in a serpentine pattern. And when you get on the face, each of the nadis extend from the Muladhara chakra to the Ajna chakra, meeting the Shoshana at each of the chakras. And see, this is what you know, like when they practice a form of yoga called the Hatha yoga, the Hata, the nada known as the Pingala begins in the right nostril, as represented by the symbol of the sun. So when we're talking about breathing, it has a positive polarity, and it's referred to as ha, ha. And the nada begins in the left nostril. It's represented by the symbol of the moon, brothers and sisters. Look at this symbology. It has a negative polarity and is referred to as the ta. Now we talk about the Baphomet. Now we talk about the so-called pentagram coming together, creating what? One. This is, in fact, the origin of the word hada or hada, referring to the discipline of the particular branch of yoga. So when you look at the human body, you see that form of chakras, but then also it's a picture of the human body, and you will see it in another symbology, coming from the top crown chakra in the middle all the way down to the so close to the testes, you know? So I just wanted to show and speak on a tittle of that. I don't want to stay too far into wisdom, because I really, really challenge our brothers and sisters. We need to start really having think tanks and studies where we can really share this wisdom, you know, and we have a beautiful library with a extensive pieces of literature and wisdom from all different levels that can change a lot of what's going on. We can illuminate a lot of people's libraries, but we really can talk and have real dialogue, you know, as a people of truth seekers, no matter what you call yourself, a 5%er or more or whatever the cause may be. But if you're a truth seeker, this is a beautiful place for us to sit down and have dialogue and, you know, and move to another place. So, like I said, I've been going for about 40 minutes. I didn't want to go too long, but I just wanted to introduce that to my brothers and sisters. If y'all here, if y'all need that piece of literature, all you got to do is get with us. That'd be a gift from us. All you got to do is hit us up in the inbox, you know. But it's super consciousness through meditation. It's a good introduction. It may be a little advanced for those that may not study, but for those that study, no matter what craft you study in, this is a good tool to add in your toolbox. You know, this is a beautiful tool. So I challenge you to get with us, man, and come from, like I said, come from out the shallow grave, all intact with all your extremities, and we right here. Noble Alonzo, you got anything, Noble?
Islam, gratitude for the demonstration, and we dealing with the relationship between cosmic origin and, you know, human origin. When we talk about this, and this was all of what the mystery schools was dealing with, and were meditating and contemplating upon, teaching the initiates. So we need to know and hear, those that have eyes to see and ears to hear, that these thought leadership collectives that we need to put in place, like Sheik was saying, it's not far from among us. We need to just come together and put all egos aside, you know, because the real gift of awareness or consciousness is that we're able to reason with one another. So that's what we got to do. With that, I say Islam.
Now I say Islam as well, Noble Alonzo. Me and my dad were just talking, you know, about, you know, just it's nobody else's fault. Nobody has that power over us. Nobody can say what we can and can't do. We have the ability to say yes. We have the ability to say no, but we definitely have the ability, and we should be saying yes and spreading this a little bit more as being allies, you know, or how can I say, adding value to what our young people need to learn, and also the parents and the adults, they need this as well. And like I said, I'm gonna keep pushing this, man. And I hope everybody that's here, those that's not here when you watch this later, like I said, I hope you share this. I know I didn't go on TikTok early. I forgot to do that, but it's okay. But we got a lot of people there that's following us. We'll be live Sunday school tomorrow. But once again, Noble Alonzo, I thank you, man. I thank you for your
Islam,
continued work. And like I said,
Islam.
man, we're gonna continue to take this further, man. I really, like I said, I'm in it for the long haul, man. But it's definitely a long road, and it's definitely need a wake up call in our resurrection to our community, to our kids. It's so much that they need to know, man, especially how to use their brain. But with that, I say Islam and gratitude.
Islam. Gratitude. You as well, Sheikh.
You get us our benediction.
Islam. Islam. I just also add in closing, something that just jumped in my spirit. I had a conversation maybe yesterday in the Uber with a driver. And he's just talking about being out of work, being sick, doing different things, trying to get himself and his career back on track and things. And, just he had a reflective moment. So that gave me the chance to jump in and share something. But basically, it was more or less like contemplating on the spiritual side of things more or less than the physical side of things. And times we get, looking at ourselves from the physical sense only. And it's like, man, I don't feel the same, this, that, and third, for whatever reason. But spiritually, we got to realize that keeping our hippocampus that we just travelers, man. We just traveling through. We not going to always be here. And that's part of the grand design. So it's not like a thing. It's just while we here, we got some work to do. So we need to find out whatever work that is assigned to us to do and do that work.
Yep.
Because that will ultimately allow us to move forward and, finish out whatever we need to finish out on the other side as we pass on and go into our other mission. You know what I mean? So we traveling through. So we say, that's why when you hear those of a certain ilk say, safe travels, we not only talking about the physical side of things, we're talking about the upper echelon, the spiritual side of things as well.
Right.
With that, I say Islam.
With that, I say
Islam.
gratitude. Gratitude, Noble.
Gratitude. And now for our Telsman benediction, well, I could close with a more American prayer than our Telsman benediction. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our guide, and our salvation by night and by day through the Holy Prophet, Drew Ali. Amen. And now for our Telsman benediction, it reads as follows. May the benediction of Allah be upon thee and thine always, as thou shouldst strive to be a credit to Allah. Make haste to bestow thine acts of love upon thy brethren, and do the best to shun thine evil ones. Remember to take suckle of the breast of knowledge, wisdom, fortitude, charity, love, and all standing, that you might nourish the souls of men. Let truth be the shield in the manifest battles of falsehood. Know that Moors need not to pick the lock to the gates of paradise by means of petty or criminal theft, for behold, the key to salvation already rests within thine own hands. And yes, even though a portion of our nature is weakness, instability, and inconstancy, there still is the greater part of our nature that is divine. May Allah protect thee, guide thee, preserve thee, lengthen thy age, and give thee everlasting peace. Al-Rahman, Al-Rahim, Al-Haq, Ya Muhammad. And at the BBT, when we say Al-Haq, that's Arabic and it stands for the truth. And when we say Ya Muhammad, that's Arabic as well, and it stands for the protector. We see ourselves as truth protectors, and we cast that net out to all true and divine light seekers to come join on to us. For the truth has no sides, for the truth is one, as man is with Allah. And with that, we say peace and love. Islam.
Islam.
Peace,
Peace, peace, peace, peace, peace, peace, peace, peace, peace, peace. Love you, Noble.
Love.
Peace and love,
Gratitude
Noble.
and love, Sheik.
Gratitude to you, man. Tell the family peace and love.
You do the same. Peace and love.
Islam.